Today we are going to be canning fig jam. The first step is to get some water boiling. I like to use my filtered water. I just put some in the Instant Pot and I'm warming it up on the high setting. I got these beautiful figs from a local lady who picked them off her tree. So this is about as fresh as it gets. Let's pop one of those guys open. Look at that stunningly beautiful fruit. It's so juicy. We're gonna do a quick taste test. Absolutely delicious. Let's get started. I already added a little bit of vinegar and dish soap to that bowl. So then we'll add some cold water and we'll let the figs soak in that mixture for a couple minutes. I like to do this because it just helps get off any dirt or any bugs that might be there. And I just kind of gently agitate them. You want to be very gentle because figs are very fragile fruits. And after a few minutes in that soak, we'll just go ahead and move those into a rinse. Just some fresh cold water. And after they've had a chance to rinse off, we'll put them in the pot. And fun fact, fresh figs will sometimes have latex on them because the sap from the fig tree does actually produce some natural latex. So if you see a couple little white spots on there, don't worry. It might mean that some of the figs maybe were a little bit underripe, or maybe some sap dripped on the figs from a branch. And these are just some splits in the skin from very ripe figs. Splits in the skin can happen after a rainfall if a lot of water goes into the fig tree and the fruit just kind of grows really quickly and swells faster than the skin can expand. These are just beautiful figs. I put a little trivet there on the bottom just to protect the countertop from the boiling water. We'll then cover the figs in boiling water. And I did a couple scoopfuls, but then off camera I just dumped the rest of that pot right over the figs. And you'll let them soak for 10 minutes. After those 10 minutes, you'll remove the figs from the hot water. If you have a strainer, you can do that, but I just went ahead and scooped them into a clean pot. Look at that water. It's amazing how the color changes. That's all from the figs. You'll now go ahead and remove the stems from the figs and dice the fruit. Some people like to mash the figs in the pot with a potato masher. Some people like to blend them. Look at these beautiful fruits. They are just huge, super juicy, perfectly ripe. But for me, I just like to dice them up into a nice size. You'll then tear out the scale, and as you're dicing the figs, you'll go ahead and put them in that big Pyrex measuring cup and also measure by weight. The recipe calls for 2 quarts of figs, which they said should be about 5 pounds. I actually got over 2 quarts and just over 4 pounds, so I got a little bit more volume and a little bit less weight, but I just went ahead and processed as a full recipe for the rest of the ingredients. You'll then add the chopped figs to a pot. and add 3/4 cups of filtered water. And also 6 cups of white sugar. So this is a pectin-free jam recipe, which means that the fruit will be reduced and thickened naturally. We're not going to be adding any pectin to this recipe. You'll then slowly bring the mixture to a boil. So I just put the heat on medium, and we'll go ahead and stir in that sugar. And as the mixture starts to warm up, the juices start to release from the fruit and it starts to form kind of like a syrup. And at this point, you'll go ahead and boil rapidly and stir very frequently to avoid the mixture sticking to the bottom of the pot. And here you'll just keep cooking, keep stirring, keep reducing. It takes a little while. And here you can see the liquid is almost like water. It's very runny. So you'll continue cooking until the mixture thickens up. You can see here even the color has changed. It's much darker, and you can see from the level in the pot just how much it has already reduced. So here I'm checking the gelling point by using a frozen plate, and you let the mixture sit on the plate for about 30 seconds, and you can see it's quite runny. The edges are running back together. So here we cooked it down a little bit more, and we're going to test it again. So same thing, a couple drops on a frozen plate, let it sit for about 30 seconds. And you can see how the mixture is sticking much more to the plate. And when you run your finger through it, it stays separated. It starts trying to come together, but you can tell it's much thicker. So here you'll add 1/4 cup lemon juice and cook for 1 more minute and get that stirred in. And at this point, the mixture was starting to try to stick to the bottom of the pot, so I realized it's time. And this mixture splattered everywhere. It got on the stove, it got on the wall. It was very messy, and I did get some very minor burns on my arms. Nothing too bad, but you really do want to be careful because those bubbles do explode on everything. So now it's time to can. You'll use the tongs to remove a 1/2 pint jar from the prepared water bath, place on the wide mouth funnel, and now we're going to add jam to 1/4 inch headspace. And again, my trick is pretty much to add a little bit less than what I think we're going to need, because I find it's always easier to add a little bit more than to have to spoon it out. So there's the 1/4 inch mark on the measuring tool, and we still have a little bit more to go. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. And this mixture was actually very thick. So for that second measurement, we got there right on the dot, 1/4 inch headspace. Now I get that paper towel dampened with some water, and now I'll go ahead and wipe off the rim of the jar with that damp paper towel. And then we'll place on a new canning lid and a clean ring. You want to be sure to always use a new lid, although the rings can be reused. You'll twist the ring until it's finger tight, and then use the tongs to carefully place the jar back in the water bath. The paper towel there got very sticky. And you want to make sure that you have 1 to 2 inches of headspace of water above the surface of the cans in the water bath. Now the canner was completely full and I still had a little bit extra. So here we'll just bring the water bath to a boil. Since the rest of the jam is not going to fit in there, I just divided it up equally. And I ended up gifting this jam. So as long as you put it in the fridge, it's good to go for a couple weeks. Assuming it stays, usually it gets eaten before then. And here I just put the lid on to help retain that heat. And I took a minute here to just carefully wipe down that cooking surface. And the recipe actually says to boil for 5 minutes, but it's really safe for jam to do a minimum of 10 minutes. So I went ahead and processed for 10 minutes just to be on the safe side. And here I'm using those tongs to carefully remove the jars from the water bath. You can see they're very hot. The steam's coming up. And then all the jars are now out, and you'll let them sit undisturbed for 12 to 24 hours. Here we're on the next day. We're going to test the seals. So take off the ring and look at that beautiful, beautiful jam. The color is amazing and it's very thick. But this is more of a soft set jam because it is a pectin-free recipe. And you can see the lid does not indent. You can lift the jar just by the lid, so that lid has sealed perfectly. And you can see every single other lid also sealed perfectly, which is wonderful. You'll then wash the jars. And once they're dry, you'll label them with the contents and the date. Thank you so much for watching.